Hi, my name's Kevin McQuillan, and the following pre-recorded conversations are my attempt to make sense of the human experience through the practice of yoga. I hope you enjoy. So good morning. It is the last day, full day, for yoga teacher training for those that are in it. Last full day. What a day it will be as we wrap things up and move into completion. The theme of today is immunity. That's the theme. And how important immunity is, and to have a sound relationship to immunity and all the building blocks to get yourself there. We've been discussing the building blocks every single day. We started with vulnerability. Next theme was authenticity, communication. Another theme followed by connection, and all the way into intimacy. And that was yesterday, intimacy. What a day it was. Full of intimacy, so many different ways. And how intimacy bridges into immunity. So if we're feeling intimate is one way of looking at it. We're connected and feeling sound and good about not only ourselves but our circumstances. That's typically the case. And from that place, we typically make better decisions for ourselves and for those around us. And that supports our health and well-being. You could say that strengthens immunity. And so that's the case we're building anyways. And how immunity also supports intimacy. That if you're feeling strong and healthy, most likely you'll have the urge and be drawn to intimacy. It's like, yes, I'll go out for coffee with you. That sounds like a great idea. Or I'm going to cook dinner for us so we can be together, and these kinds of things. And so it's a good idea to build yourself into a state of intimacy and make sound decisions for you that supports your health and well-being, and how your health and well-being also supports having good relationships to yourself and other people. What the opposite of immunity is, as I see it, we see it, is dis-ease, where we lose ease. Oh, and that's so easy. We can do that very quickly. We lose our ease. It can happen in a flash, can't it? Somebody cuts us off in traffic or something, and the monster comes out. Forget to do something. I don't know, whatever. Somebody's not listening to us. I mean, the list goes on and on and on where we can lose dis-ease. We lose ease, move into dis-ease. And so up on the board are some distinctions around what I'm speaking about. The top board is some distinctions around dis-ease and how we can lead ourselves there. There's many ways, but there's one particular way that I'll explain and explore this morning. I have no value. That's a statement we can say to ourselves. A belief. I have no value. And that's a stiff perspective to take on. It has a whole language wrapped around that particular presupposition. Someone such as me should not be loved properly because I have no value. You may think to yourself, well, I wonder if I think that way. It's like, yes, you do. You absolutely think that way. In your own unique way, but it's something very close to these particular statements. I have no value. I don't deserve good things. I don't deserve to be loved properly, and so on and so forth. Which are very difficult perspectives to take on, and they lead us into places we don't necessarily want to be. Where we abandon responsibility, make excuses, blame, and suffer as a consequence. I'm going to abandon my responsibility. No, thank you. I'll make a bunch of excuses of why I am who I am and blame you for my existence, and I will suffer. And that's a posture we can take. Absolutely, we can take that posture. It's too hard to remain committed to my health and self-care. Life is too hard. Life is against me. People are against me. This is too hard. I can't keep up. I can't possibly take care of myself. It's too damn hard. I don't have time. I don't have the energy. Damn dog always wants something. Damn kids always want something. This person wants something. It's too hard. Life is too hard. And so all the excuses come flowing from that as well. And then, of course, remember, I'm an old baby that needs to be protected and swaddled. That's the posture of being the old baby, which is absolutely absurd. But we can be that. I have thin skin. Be easy on me, because I can't handle much, is the posture. I am dependent, and I'd rather have you take care of me. And by the way, forever. Forever. And you may think to yourself, oh, my goodness, I wonder if this is true in my world. It's like, yes, absolutely it is. You start really looking at your relationships and why you have, specifically why you've chosen certain people. They're feeding this part of you in some ways. They're literally spoon-feeding you in various different ways. And in the ways in which you are avoiding yourself, those ways, where you choose to be underdeveloped and naive and ultimately the old baby. I refuse to grow up, and you can't make me. No. I choose to be here as the old baby in my full diapers, whining and complaining about life is so rough, and to take care of me. It's kind of an absurd thing to look at. But that's part of our makeup. And the idea is to notice where this is occurring in your life, because it's happening at least one area of your life. And how difficult that is for you, and how difficult you're making it for other people. One of the challenges of distancing ourselves from this experience is we have to give up something. We behave like this because we get something. One of the things in which we get is people do things for us. That's what happens. That's how it plays out. It's like, sure, pay my rent and, I don't know, cook food for me and pet me and tell me I'm a nice person, all these kinds of things. It's like there's something attached to this experience, this practice. And what you'll notice is it's a self-serving gain. You're after something you don't have to do, and so therefore other people are doing for you. And so it's a horrible setup in some ways because it keeps you weak and it keeps you dependent on other people. And so you're not self-sufficient in some areas of your life. I'll give you an example, a personal example for me. I've been talking about my relationship to nurturing and how my relationship to that experience has been distorted in my life. Because it's something I felt I didn't receive. In some ways I did, in other ways I didn't. In ways in which I felt I needed to be nurtured, I was not nurtured. That's how it seems to me. And that comes from my relationship with my mother. And I could easily blame her for being who she is. And in various different ways, I was doing that. And had all the excuses. You didn't have time for me, you didn't love me, you didn't care for me enough, and all these kinds of things. And how is putting the blame for me being me on her? And there's no responsibility in that for me. Like zero. I always had the scapegoat. I am who I am because of you. And it's kind of handy. And that's often the posture of the baby. I am who I am because of you. You who raised me. You did this to me. And I could have easily taken on that posture for the rest of my life. One of the things that's woken me up is to notice the pathology of the men in my family lineage, which is heart issues. And it's a recipe for heartbreak, not having the capacity to nurture oneself. And that's how it seems to me in my family lineage. My grandfather died very young of a heart attack. My father has literally a half-dead heart from heart attacks. And I believe these to be elements of heartbreak. Me, myself, I have a cyst on my back, right behind my heart. And it's not like a fluke. It's like, why there? And I think that's a consequence of a heartbreak. My divorce, trying to recover from that, feeling not nurtured in various different ways in my life. And I can see what's waiting for me. And the consequences of not taking on my experience in a serious fashion. It lives in my family lineage, and that is absolutely true for you as well. And so there's something about men in my family of something like having a weak heart. We blow it where we're weakest. And so I'm very aware of that. And in various different ways, why I'm so serious about my practices and my approach. Because if I'm not, I know what's waiting for me. And something I don't necessarily want to tangle with if I can prevent it. And my dad has taught me a lot of those lessons along the way, even though perhaps he hasn't been teaching them consciously to me. His heart condition has moved into dementia, and he is suffering. And because he's suffering and the concerns he has, he's chosen to end his life. And that's happening soon. Which is something I'm preparing for. Because I have no idea what that's going to be like. Zero. And so I'm very clear about what's waiting for me. And that's not necessarily the existence I want to have. And so if I'm not paying attention to myself, not nurturing myself, surrounding myself with people that don't have the capacity to nurture me, and don't have my best interests in mind, I'm in a big problem. And it's a problem I have. And it's mine to sort out. I could easily slough off all of this on other people. You don't nurture me, you don't take care of me, you don't do this, you don't do that. It's like, yeah. And in some ways that's true. In other ways it's absolutely not true. And so part of this is pulling myself out of my story in the attempt to save myself. So I can have the kind of future I want to have. And perhaps it's a long future and a healthy future, potentially. That's the hope. And so there's some dire consequences of us not taking care of ourselves, and we know that. And we can slough it off, slough it off, slough it off until the hammer hits. And the idea is not to wait for that to occur until we blow out and then attempt to take care of ourselves. That's the tendency. We wait, we push off our responsibilities, and we blow out where we're weakest. And then it's like, shit, I really have a problem and I have to change my life immediately. And some of you in the healthcare system, you probably see this on a daily basis. Like all of the time. And so it's the calling, it's like the wake up. It's like, whoa, okay, I need to sacrifice something here in this moment to make sure I'm taking care of myself so I can actually have what I say I want. And so up on the board, there's some distinctions around immunity and how to develop immunity so you can be strong in your practice. Oh, there's so much to say up there. And in some ways, this is like the crux of my teaching, which I get very excited about, my teaching. And it feeds me in a whole host of different ways. And I'd say that's the balance to this place, you know, owning peace retreat. This is like a trap of me not taking care of myself, absolutely, because I'm attempting to tend to all of you. And all your unique needs. And that's all fine. But if I'm not taking care of myself, this will crush me, absolutely. And so in some sense, this is the manifestation of various different values I have. You know, like being of service and learning, nurturing. I'm attempting to nurture people, so perhaps I get some of that back. See how that works? But it's also the trap of disappointment and heartbreak in a whole host of different ways. And I really have to take care of myself in this environment. It's a great test and challenge every single day, I can assure you of that. And the counterbalance to me is my teaching, because it fills me up and it nourishes me in a whole host of different ways, because there is an element of self-preservation in my teaching. I teach to help myself and through my experience, ideally support other people in theirs. And sometimes that works. And I'm pleased about that. And so up on this board, mature in a way where you have the capacity to take care of yourself, which is absolutely essential. You have to mature that way. To get outside and away from being the old baby, it doesn't work. Initiation into maturity is predicated on the idea that you pull yourself out of your childhood context, destroy your personality, and put yourself together as a mature being. That is the work. It's kind of a wild ride, but yoga is designed this way, which is often missed as I see it in the teaching and the context of yoga these days. It's all about dismantling yourself, your identity. So when you lay out the final pose, corpse pose, you're literally dying. You're practicing dying. And what are you giving up in those moments? What needs to die? And something needs to die. You need to cut things away. And we all need to do that in various different ways as a way to self-preserve. And an element to that is cleaning up our past. Otherwise, we're consistently anchored to it. And so as we heal, we cut things away. And that's an element. You got to cut yourself away from this childhood context you're trapped in. And in this program, that's what we've been exploring in a whole host of different ways. Maybe you weren't aware of that, but that's the therapeutic approach. Grow up. And that's a stiff stance, but a useful one. Self-care practices are designed to catalyze this transformation. So self-care practices are designed to support you moving into this transformation where you're cutting yourself away from your childhood context so you can actually be a self-sufficient adult, individual in this world. And how important that is to be that and to use these practices, do just that every time you hit your mat. You do kriyas, you meditate, you chant. You scrape your tongue, you drink hot water, whatever the things in which you're doing. All designed to support you growing up, which has nothing to do with your age. As a consequence, you break free of your family influence and break free from the dominant figures of influence in your life. Oh, that is just absolutely so necessary, which are your parents, whoever raised you. You've got to cut yourself away from them. Break free. The dominant influence our parents can have on us, where they've passed on so many different things, a lot of wonderful things, and perhaps some things that aren't so great for us, that aren't necessarily ours. And there's no better way to confront yourself and to grow up than to move to the source. And so we have some challenges in various different ways with our family dynamics and sometimes with our parents. And perhaps unbeknownst to you, you're blaming your parents for something, for being you. And the idea is to stop doing that. Close that door, because it always gives you the out. I am this way because of you. Now let me remind you why I am who I am. And if you can do that, that's where you mature. That's the pathway to maturation. Stop blaming where you came from. Own it. Yes, this is where I came from. These are the people that raised me. And what can I learn from this experience? So I can take on the qualities I appreciate and perhaps transform some issues that aren't so good for me. I help myself, I help my family in the moment, real time, and perhaps support those that are coming after me. And what a great gift to pass along. As you grow up, you have the potential to establish meaningful self-care practices and define you as a self-sufficient individual, and that is absolutely the practice. Self-sufficient, not to a fault. Some of you are extraordinarily self-sufficient. The work for you is actually including people now. So you have a practice of receiving and have the capacity to be supported. And these are the extremes that we can dance in. The old baby, in some ways, that constantly needs to be fed and changed and all these kinds of things and swaddled. And then the opposite of that is being fiercely independent, where you need nobody and you behave that way. And so who are you in all of those extremes? And so in various different ways through the process of this program, the attempt is to support you updating your life. Every step of the way, through vulnerability to authenticity, and all the steps we've been speaking about, to make them yours so you can be self-sufficient. Wrap self-care practices around them so you can actually grow up. That's good for you and it's good for everybody around you. The more that you do that, that's what you teach. There's no better teaching than that, to teach people how to be self-sufficient and grow up, where they adopt the necessary responsibility to take on their lives and to own who they are. And so that's the attempt this morning, through these beautiful practices that are right in front of you. It'll be easy to slough off. Take it easy. Just kind of go through the motions. Attempt to feel good. That's fine sometimes. But these practices are designed to grapple with yourself, so you have to wrestle with where you don't want to go. And I certainly encourage you to do that. And so a question for you to make this real. Where are you currently being the old baby? Where do you need to grow up? In relationship to what? Or perhaps to someone? Maybe it's you need to grow up around your relationship to finances. Maybe it's your diet. Maybe it's your exercise. Maybe it's your relationship to addiction. I don't know, whatever it may be. Sexuality. Maybe it's your career. I don't know. Somebody in particular. Maybe it is your parents, or those who raised you. A sibling. Where do you feel you need to grow up? Who's got something to say about that? Put themselves out there. Thank you.
My sister.
Your sister. Thank you for that. Your father? Very good. So one of the considerations here, if you're not willing to move into these relationships, you'll always be the baby. Not just in that area, but in your life overall. And that's a problem. And it can be something like, something's bigger than you. And so the balance is becoming a peer. With a sibling, a parent, whatever it is. And that's important. And that is absolutely your work. And so I encourage you to take it on, do that through practices. What a day it will be, building immunity, greater strength from the inside out. All right, you wonderful human beings. Really nice to be with you. Just a subtle, light conversation on Friday morning.